In these boxes is 1,500 perennials, and I'm sure you want all the details. Here on Red Roof Family Farm, we grow flowers and veggies, which we sell here from a roadside stand and also down at our local farmers market. As we go into our 4th year farming, we're growing more flowers than ever. So a big part of that plan is having perennial flowers as well. So we made a massive wholesale order last summer. We purchased all these plants from Van Noort, which is a local wholesaler to us, but it's been a long time since I put in that order, so I don't even remember everything that I have in these boxes. So I'm really excited to open it up, be reminded of all the excitement that I have, and share all the details that I have with you. The very first one is my lavender. This came as live plants, so I opened this up as soon as the box showed up, and I swear in the day since I've opened this, it's grown and it smells so amazing. We aren't necessarily going to have lavender so much as a cut flower, but I mean, this is a completely reasonable number of lavenders to have in your home garden, isn't it? I mean, there's only 21 here. I think that's fine. We can find space for that. These lavenders are actually a perfect example of how hard it is for me to make these wholesale orders. I really try to restrain myself when I do all my purchasing, which is kind of a running joke because if you've seen any of my seed unboxings, it really doesn't seem like I restrain myself. But usually I'm trying to only buy things that I'm going to be selling. But when you buy these wholesale plants, the price is actually quite affordable. So it's hard to limit. You know, this tray of lavender costs the same amount as what it would be to buy 4 lavender plants down at my local nursery. So it's easy for me to convince myself it's a good idea to do this. And now I'm sitting here, you know, 9 months later after buying these wondering, where am I gonna put it? Because this one isn't so much intended for the farm, I haven't allotted space in the farm for it. So, you know, it's a lot of lavender. I have a bunch of dahlias and lilies, but I'm the most excited about my perennials, so we're gonna start with those. First up is Veronica Sunny Border. And I got this because this is one of the taller varieties of Veronica. In general, I find most of it is a little bit short for what I want. But this variety grows a little bit taller, so I think I'm gonna be able to use it well in bouquets. The nice thing about something like this, and this is kind of the case with all of the perennials, we have this little window in the early summer where it's hard to have a lot of options on the farm. A lot of the summer heat-loving annuals like zinnias and cosmos and the classic things that we grow lots of just aren't ready yet. So pretty much all of these perennials are gonna fill the gap, but it doesn't really help me for our flower farm if the gap they fill is for short little flowers. So everything in these boxes has to be really tall, and I have some really tall stuff this year. This is probably one of my shortest items. I'm excited to see what's in here. Okay, let's see. This is Monarda Marshall's Delight, and Monardas are bee balm, which means that they smell like Earl Grey tea. They smell so good. I'm really excited for this because I love how tall the bee balm gets, and I think that the flowers are going to work really well in my bouquets. I haven't actually tried using bee balm yet as a cut flower, so it's a fun experiment. But you know, it has a really similar growth pattern to mints, so I think it's going to do really good. And this one comes back year after year. This whole box smells amazing.
We used to have lots of bee balm at our old house, and so it's exciting to have it back in the yard because, you know, we haven't grown it in a few years. It's one of my favorites.
I think that in total I have 50 of them, so it's gonna be a really nice patch of them. And the Monardas, they fill in crazy fast. So even though this is 50 plants now, by next year it's gonna be 1,000,000 plants. This box traveled a little bit better. Looks like the other one kind of fell apart. This one was tighter packed. Next up, we have another Salvia. And it smells like sage. I love the smell of these. And this variety is May Night. So I'm excited for these. The Salvia is the same as the Veronica. So it can have some issues with being a little short. So yet again, I kind of stuck with the stuff that was going to be a little bit taller. Some of these are a little sad, maybe a little bit of damage. But the nice thing about perennials is even if they come and like they look like nothing, you know, these bags, this is how usually when we've gotten the perennials, they don't come in the little pots. Usually they come like this. And this is proof of like how hardy perennials are. This is just like a bag of plants with like no, like it's just nothing. It's a bag of roots and little crowns, and this is what you plant out. And you know, as soon as you stick these in the ground, I mean, even in the bag, this one is, you know, here's a better example. In the bag, it's already growing. It wants to live. So even when they come and they look kind of sad and they look like they're not going to do anything, it's amazing how quickly getting them into the dirt, getting them watered, getting some heat of spring, and they just take off. Then I have another Salvia, and perfect example. This is how I expect my perennials to come, in this bag, not potted up. And this Salvia is Blue Hill. Next up, I have some Persicaria, which I don't know if I'm saying that right, but these, I had completely forgot that I ordered these. These are 100% just me giving in to getting too excited when I was ordering perennials. But so the first Persicarica I have is Superba, and this super pretty. I'm really excited to see what this looks like in real life. And then I have Persicaria Polymorpha, and these are supposed to get massive. So I'm not too surprised. These, like, for these kind of roots, like this big of a bag for 25 bare root perennials means this is a really big plant. You know, when I looked at pictures of this, it looks more like a shrub than it looks like what I think of as a garden perennial. So I'm really excited to try these out. Normally I try to order more drought tolerant stuff. We're super dry here in the Okanagan. We have 100% sun, we have sandy soil, so there's really good drainage. We don't hold a lot of moisture in our soil. And the Persicaria, they prefer wetter soil. So I don't know how they're gonna do on our farm. Things just in general that need a lot of water suffer. So I'm definitely gonna have to put some thought into where these go. Maybe somewhere where if they die, I won't have a big hole in my perennial plantings, but it'll be a fun experiment no matter what. Next up is, I'm gonna butcher this, but let's try, Perovskia atriplicifolia, or as I say, Russian sage. This is a really common landscaping plant. It's kind of, you know, the type of thing that they put into strip malls all over the Okanagan. It gets really big, super drought tolerant, and it gets these really pretty purple flowers. I think this is gonna make a great filler. I'm not even necessarily thinking of having this to cut when it has the purple flowers. I think it'll just be really fun to use it even as a green, but I don't know how this is as a cut flower. So I had to buy some plants and then grow them and then do some testing on it. So these are pretty little. I think these plants are probably, you know, I'm not gonna do much with it this year. It's gonna be more, I can start playing with it next year. But I love the look of these, and they're so drought tolerant that they're perfect for my area. Ian will be super excited about these because he got to pick these. I have poppies. So this says Oriental poppy. I don't remember, I thought that that's just the type of poppies that I ordered. But I think that maybe this is the classic orange poppy. So we ordered poppies, not for the flowers. We ordered poppies to be able to have seed pod heads to cut and sell either fresh in the bouquets or to dry and use with our dried flowers. So when we picked the colors for these, it was less about, oh, would these go well in the garden, and more about what would we enjoy in the garden, because these are going to get to flower. We're going to be able to enjoy these. On a flower farm, you don't really, I mean, ideally you shouldn't have any flowers out in your field, because you should cut the flowers before they're open and beautiful so that they can spend all their time being open and beautiful in your vases when you bring them home. So I'm really excited about the poppies because it's going to be something that we get to enjoy and then sell. So this bag is Harlem, and I think Ian picked this. And the colors, the colors on this is beautiful. I definitely did not complain when he picked this variety. So these will be fun. And these plants, they feel massive and they feel ready to grow. So I'm sure as soon as we put these into the ground, it won't be long before they're blooming.
Being a perfect loaf. What do you got?
I have another pack of the Russian sage. So we'll be able to make a nice hedge of this stuff. I have one that anyone who doesn't live in a semi-arid desert will probably laugh that I paid money for, but I bought 2 bags of Solidago, or goldenrod. I love the look of this. I've seen lots of people using it in their bouquets and it's absolutely gorgeous. I know that it will grow here. It doesn't grow wild. So I have 50 plants, so I will have so much lush yellowness for me to play with. You know, especially if I give these some water and get them established. In a couple of years, these are gonna be going like crazy. I really tried to restrain myself on how much I order for the perennials. Like, I know that I pulled out a bunch of stuff, but this year I tried, instead of getting, 30 different things, 25 packs of 30 different things, I wanted to get larger amounts of the things that I really liked. But there's only so many perennials I can buy at one time, not because I don't have the will. I could easily buy 10,000 of them. But when the perennials show up, I need to get them into the ground, and it can be a little tricky to plant out, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 perennials in a reasonable window of time. So I tried to make sure I kept my numbers kind of in that 1,500 range, because that's the amount that I can easily plant out in a week. I didn't want to get overwhelmed and kill, these bags full of plants. This is the thing that I ordered first. I had my 1,500 that I was allowed to get. This is what I ordered before I allowed myself to order anything else. This is what I am so excited about for this year and for coming years. This is an entire farm bed of phlox. These are all perennial phloxes, and the varieties that I picked anything that was tall and anything that was disease resistant. I've seen these in people's home gardens. They're really commonly grown around here, and they are gorgeous and they look amazing in bouquets. My mom has a garden filled with David phlox, and it is so beautiful. It will get 4 feet tall easily, and the flower heads on them are just massive, massive. They're absolutely beautiful, and she cuts them and she brings them in, and they last 2 weeks in the vase. It's an incredible plant, so I am very excited to have my own big patch of it to grow and to sell from the farm. So I have 75 David. That's so many. Once they get established, each of these plants could send up, like my mom's, each of their plants are these like massive clumps. It sends up like a dozen flowers. So I'm very excited about phlox. Then I have 50 of Nicky, and this is this incredible like purpley pink color. It's one of those colors that it's hard to capture in a picture. It's so bright. It's so just saturated. I think it's gonna be really fun to play with in bouquets. I have 50 of Starfire, and this is this incredible cherry color, which I think it's gonna blend really nicely. It could, I think depending on what I put it with, I could pull out redder tones or pinker tones on it. It's gonna be a lot of fun to play with. I have 50 Bright Eyes, and these are a really pretty pale color with dark pink centers. So these are really fun for the two-tone aspect of them. All of those varieties are varieties that I've seen in person. The varieties that I know for sure are gonna do really well here for me, but they had some other ones that were too tempting. I couldn't resist them. So I got them to experiment with. I have 25 of Sherbet blend, and this is green and pink. I'm obsessed with anything green, so I'm really excited to see if this is gonna be, you know, true to the pictures. The colors look absolutely incredible. And then I have 25 Blue Paradise, which is this gorgeous periwinkle color. You know, the blue flowers, sometimes depending on, you know, the conditions, they'll be more purple than blue. But even if this ends up being more of a lavender, I think it's gonna be something that I'm gonna be really glad to have. It's you know, these two are quite distinct from the other colors. And then finally, I have Orange Perfection, which is the perfect salmon orangey color. I think it's gonna be really fun and really vibrant. We sell down at the farmer's market. We sell these market bouquets more than we sell anything that's for, you know, weddings or events. So I'm always looking for the funnest, brightest color stuff. You know, I don't want whites and blush and baby pink. I want fruit punch colors. So every time I can find in a perennial something that's really, really punchy, you know, it's what I want to try. I mentioned this briefly, but I'm gonna reiterate it because it's something that is really important for me in buying the perennial phloxes. These are all downy mildew resistant varieties. The phlox, because it gets so dense, you know, because of how I'm gonna be planting it on the flower farm, which is even tighter than how you necessarily plant it in your perennial garden, I really need those disease resistant varieties. If they got all full of powdery mildew, I wouldn't be able to have usable stems for cut flowers. Next up is something that I bought last year in my big perennial order, and I decided I could never have enough of. It's a little bit of a running joke here on the farm, my obsession with Yarrow, because I currently have 2 full farm beds of Yarrow. But despite that, I have started more Yarrow by seed, and I've bought myself how many? Over 100 more Yarrow plants. I can never get enough of it. It's one of my favorites. So this here is Terracotta, and this is the most perfect color I've ever seen. If I could have a million different varieties that came in this Yarrow terracotta color, I would grow those and I wouldn't need a million of the Yarrow specifically. But I've yet to find anything that has this exact same coloring. So I bought 100 of them, which it seems like a lot. But last year we did an experiment. We had 25 of them and I used every single stem. I loved the plants, and it produced really early and it had really long stems. These terracotta Yarrows had an even longer stem than, you know, the pinks and the more classic colors. So I really liked it, and I'm really excited to have so much for this year. I also ordered 25 of Moonshine, and these make me laugh because they already have buds. These like sad little tiny plants are so desperate to grow that they're already trying to flower. The Moonshine is bright yellow. I had 25 of them last year. I loved it, and it was super early. The Moonshine bloomed, you know, it was kind of finished by the time the other Yarrow started to bloom. So just for the fact that I had it so early on, I was actually pairing the Moonshine, the yellow Moonshine, with my yellow ranunculus. I have the Yarrow eyes. The smell of it gets me hyped. Oh, I love Yarrow. Okay, and then last, but definitely not least, is 100 Baptisia, because Baptisia is incredible. I love it, I'm obsessed, but I bought some last year and I think maybe I killed it. So we're doubling down, we're trying again. And I'm gonna treat it a lot more precious. Once you get Baptisia established, it is super, super drought tolerant. But I think I was like, oh, it's fine. It's super drought tolerant, and I didn't water it enough. The plants just got super sad. They have so many uses as a cut flower. You can cut it early on for greenery. You can cut it when it flowers. They have this beautiful blue flower. And then after it flowers, it sets the most incredible seed pods. You know, almost the best cut flower stem of all of those stages is the seed pod itself. So I'm gonna be really glad to have all these. You know, I think I'm probably gonna start to establish an entire bed of this. I think it's something that, you know, even though I have 100 this year, I could see myself buying another 100 next year. Perennials done. Now we move on to lilies. I'm really excited for my plan for lilies this year. Last year we had a bunch of lilies and I mostly planted them into the farm, but I also had a few that I planted into crates that I had in my greenhouse, and they did incredible. I was able to fit almost 16 into, you know, a crate about this big, so it took up hardly any space in the greenhouse. When they're finished, I moved them out of the greenhouse. I was able to move other things in. And so my plan for this year was to do, you know, the lilies greenhouse style. So what you do is you get yourself 1 million lilies, and then every week, every 2 weeks, you grab some of them, you plant up these crates, and you put them into your greenhouse, and then you can keep having lilies, you know, throughout the entire season. If you plant lilies into your garden, they're all gonna just bloom at the same time. You'll get this beautiful flush of a bunch of lilies, but you won't be able to have them earlier or later when, you know, it'd be nice. So I am going, you know, I have all these. I'm not going to be doing anything with these. These are going straight into my fridge. If I keep them out of my fridge, they're going to start growing. They're going to start needing to be into the ground. By putting them into the fridge, I'm going to basically, you know, put them into stasis. They're going to be on hold, and then as I need them, pull them out, pot them up, and, you know, I'm really excited to see how it works out. The lilies that I wanted to buy this year were Asiatic lilies. In the past, I have bought and planted some Oriental lilies. I have Stargazer, and I have, now I'm brain farting, I can't remember the white one, but you know, beautiful, beautiful classic lilies, and I planted a whole bed of them, and they bloom, and Ian then wants to kill me because he claims that they're super stinky. He can't stand how scented they are. Having, you know, 200 of them blooming all at once on the farm it makes the entire outdoors overwhelming for him, and he hates it when I bring them inside. So he laid down the law. No stinky lilies. So I started buying the Asiatics, which are super bright colors. Like I said, we love the bright colors here, and they have no scent. But this year, you know, I ordered just a little bit too late. So when I went to order the stuff, the lily selection was really limited. So I didn't end up getting what I wanted, because what I wanted was basically just like 1,000 Asiatic lilies. Send me any color, send me any mix. And I couldn't really get my hands on that. So what I ordered instead is LA hybrid lilies. Here I have 100 of the Albiferia, I don't know. Bear with me, it's on the screen. This one is a beautiful pink color with the lighter centers. It's not my favorite. You know, what I really wanted was those Asiatics. I wanted like bright yellow, bright orange, bright, like a burgundy, but I can work with this. This kind of coloring will go with so many things. I can really make it work, and I think it's gonna be something people are really gonna appreciate, and they won't be stinky for Ian. So I did find some of the Asiatic lilies, and you can see from this picture, this, you know, this is exactly what I wanted, all those amazing bright colors. This is why, one of the reasons why I love the Asiatics. I couldn't get them in bulk though, so I had to be a little bit more limited about how much I bought. But I think I got 200. I really went for it on those pink lilies. Like I said, the selection was really limited. So there's another 50 of those pink lilies. I think I got 200 of those in total. Now that I think of it, I think there's another pack in here. And then, don't tell Ian, but I did order some Oriental lilies because, like I said, everything was sold out. But the color on these is, so this is Salmon Star. So I'm really excited to see the coloring on these. It's gonna be quite distinct from, you know, the white and the pink ones that I have. And then I'm going to put these into the greenhouse and I'm gonna stagger them. You know, I don't blame Ian. I love the smell of Oriental lilies. I think they smell amazing. But when the bed of 200 all bloomed on the farm, it was a very strong smell. You opened the door to our house and you could start to smell it like throughout our entire house. It was a very, very strong scent. But only having like 50 at a time will make it a little bit more reasonable. And honestly, with lilies, you're not supposed to wait until they open. The fact that 200 opened on our farm says more about how bad we are at selling our flowers than it does about the smell of the flowers themselves. These, ideally, they should be picked before any of the flowers open. So I think he'll be fine. It won't be so many that he'll murder me, I hope. And then I also have one other Oriental lily. And the color on this is really cool. This is Captain Tricolor, and it's really neat how it has the pink and the yellow together. So I think this is gonna sell really well. And I'm gonna have lots of fun playing with this. Maybe, I know Ian says no stinky lilies, but maybe some of those might end up coming into our house because they're gonna look really great. I have stuff everywhere. I have so much stuff. I can't even keep track of everything. You know, and this is the fun of opening up orders like this. There's always so much that I'm like, I forgot I ordered that, but I'm glad I did. So what I have in here is 25 Canby raspberry stalks. And what this is for, this isn't for fruit. This is for greenery on the farm. Raspberry leaves make an excellent early summer greenery. And so we have a little patch of raspberries and I enjoy using it, but I don't have enough to use a lot of it. So I need this, you know, into the farm this year so that I can start establishing. I'm probably going to need to grow it for a year or two before I can start, you know, picking a good amount off of it. So I got 25 plants here and, you know, I'll be happy that I bought these in years to come. I also have this, which will make Ian forgive me for the Oriental lilies, because this is totally an Ian purchase. I've been holding off on buying peonies because with peonies, you don't want to be moving them. You want to plant them into the ground. You want to get them established. With the rest of these perennials, I can move them around all I want. Honestly, with the spacing that I'm going to be planting, like, you know, like I was saying about how close I'm going to have the phlox, I'm going to have to be chopping these up and moving these all the time because they're going to get overgrown and need to be divided. But the peonies, you want to put them in the ground, leave them, let them get established before you even start picking off of them. Kind of like 3 years. But Ian is desperate for peonies. Ian loves peonies. So I bought him a 10-pack of Sarah Bernhardt. These are, you know, so classic, so beautiful. This is, I'd love to have 100 of these eventually. So we'll be able to find a spot for 10. 10 isn't an overwhelming amount. Plants everywhere. Too many plants. Okay, we have dahlias, but first, there's a perennial that I forgot about. This is Bleeding Hearts. And I bought these massive plants. They have these like jumbo oversized plants. Oh my God, this weighs a lot. This is a very big, heavy bag. So these are, this is the classic, just classic pink and white Bleeding Heart. This is a 25 pack. Weighs a million pounds. And so I think I'm gonna be able to cut stems off of these this year. And I didn't only buy, it's more of those pink, more of those pink lilies. There's another 25 pack in here. Okay, this bag is so full they couldn't actually tie this bag shut. So I'm gonna pull one of these out to show you guys how big these plants are. That's a lot of Bleeding Heart. Last year, for Mother's Day, I ended up cutting bleeding hearts to go along with my tulips and a few other bits and pieces on the farm, and it made a really nice stem. In that early time of year when we don't really have very much, it's hard to find stuff to pair with those first early cuts. So the bleeding hearts, even though they don't exactly love our conditions here, the plants kind of come up in the spring and then they die. They just like go dormant through the summer. The fact that they come up so early makes it so, you know, I can definitely give some space to them. And then last but definitely not least is dahlias. So last year we did a big experiment on dahlias. We grew a couple hundred and I decided we were never gonna grow dahlias again. They just do not do well here. We have too much pest pressure. They don't like the heat. They don't like our super dry sandpit soil. So no more dahlias on the farm. So we were very restrained and very reasonable when we ordered these dahlias, since these are only just for us, and we only bought 80 of them. Ian loves dahlias, so I was like, whatever. And the wholesale dahlias are, you know, they're quite affordable, so, you know, it doesn't hurt, and they're so beautiful. Like, we love putting them everywhere just to, you know, enjoy on the camera and to enjoy it in person. Massive. Yeah, so these are Ferncliff Illusion, and the tubers that the Ferncliff Illusion makes is just insane. So I'm not surprised. You know, here's a single crown, and these are like sad little ones. When I dig these up at the end of the season, the tubers are like big and fat and massive. Ferncliff Illusion is a huge tuber producer. The look of it is, it's kind of insipid. It's not like the most beautiful dinner plate dahlia, but it does well here for us, you know, because it has these big tubers. It handles the heat quite well. So it's this really pretty, you know, blush and pinky purple color. I enjoy it. So, you know, I enjoy growing it. And it's easier to overwinter the tubers because it makes these big clumps of tubers. I really struggle with overwintering the tubers. So we got a pack. We're gonna try to save them this year. And I think they'll look really nice, kind of landscaped throughout the farm. And then this, I'm super excited for this. This is something we would never buy, except for the fact it's just for us. This is a non-tall, non-cutting dahlia. This is gonna be like one of those cute little, you know, in a pot. It's gonna be a cute little border plant. We normally wouldn't buy anything like this because all the flowers that we want on our property, we wanna be able to cut, but we're not growing dahlias this year. So we're able to buy some of these fun things. So I got 20 of them. They're called Pablo. You know, the coloring in the picture looks incredible. Can't wait to see it in person. And I'm excited. I'm excited to see if these like little shorties maybe can handle our heat a little bit better. Maybe by, you know, not being so tall and leggy, it'll, you know, it won't be so sad like the ones we've had in the past. It'll look great. Get the tall ones, the Ferncliff Illusions, and we have the Pablo in front of it. Just be a wall of dahlias. And then those were like for Ian. I had to get my favorites. This is Brigida Alida. We didn't have this last year. They were sold out of it, but we had this the year before and it was my absolute favorite. It did super good. It was the earliest blooming out of all the dahlias that I had the year before last, which always makes me happy to see some flowers early on. And then just this gorgeous, gorgeous, deep, rich color. It is a dinner plate. When I grew it the year before, they weren't massive. They were more similar to like a decorative type one. But I'm bad at growing dahlias. So, you know, maybe they needed a little bit more water, a little bit more fertility or something to get bigger. But I'm really excited to have her back this year. And then finally, we got this one, which I have never grown before, Karma Chocolate. but I've seen them and the color's really, really pretty. This dark, rich burgundy. So that'll be fun. And I think that, you know, like I said, this stuff is gonna be for garden planting. So I don't have to, you know, I can have two of a similar color because they'll look really nice planted together. I don't have to worry that, oh, I have too much of the same thing for, you know, for selling the stems. I think it'll be really fun. So there we go. Two walls of dahlias for us to enjoy. 80 is a totally reasonable number of dahlias to plant in your home garden. Ian thinks, because we also ordered like way more. We have more coming from other places. So be careful with dahlias. Once you start, it's hard to stop. This mountain of plants that I'm surrounded by means that I have a little bit of work this week because I need to get these into the ground. But I am really excited. You know, this year it's kind of like the year of the flower. It's all about the flowers. We have a ½ acre of space that we're going to be planting. It's going to be mostly flowers. We have so many new things that we're experimenting with. I mean, all of these perennials blooming, all the perennials that we planted last year. It's going to be really beautiful. I'm really excited to see all this stuff once it starts blooming. If you want to see how beautiful this is all going to look, if you want to get a little bit of a taste of what it was like last year, check out our flower farm tour, our garden tour. You can see the flowers, and I'll be checking it out too and getting excited for the season to come.